Identity with Tayanika. Hello and welcome to another episode of Explore Your Identity. Here we delve into conversations about different aspects of our identity, both positive and negative, that have shaped who we are. I'm your host, Tayanika, and I am thrilled to have another amazing guest with me here today. My guest today is William Thompson, who creates an environment of trust and that stimulates training and personal development. Welcome, William. How are you today?
I'm very well, Tayanika. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, I look forward to our conversation.
I've been looking forward to it for a while.
Yes. I like to start off with a little bit about your background. Is there anything in particular that you feel has shaped who you are today?
Wow, what a question. Yes, so I'm a Southerner, brought up, started off in London. My dad's a golf professional, mum's a nurse. I've got a brother and sister. And I have three amazing children, the first of whom I adopted. Her name is Anisha. She's 19 now, which is just amazing. And the other two came the usual way. Spent time as a missionary in South Africa for 7 years. I've had some really extraordinary parts of the journey through my life. And I think one of the things I'd really love to share is something that will help you understand a little bit about who I am, what matters to me, and also links to what we're going to talk about later. When I went to South Africa, one of the things that really shaped me was an understanding of fathering as a verb. It's almost like I was allowed to gain an insight into who I am, not based just on who I am, but on my context through intergenerational relationships.
So how old would you have been when you went to South Africa?
Wow. So when I was 26 when I went to South Africa.
And that's when you started the mission? Or that would have been after?
Yeah, well, that was a point where I really stepped into making a significant difference in other people's lives deliberately. It was always something I'm blessed to have been able to help people and make a difference. But it was really, I think, when I moved to South Africa that I really was able to invest into people in a significant way through training, through executive coaching, which just happened naturally, which is another story. But what I really found was relationships that were of older generations and younger generations. And what I experienced was being fathered from a spiritual perspective. So having the opportunity for people who are older than me to speak into my life, challenge me, encourage me. And what it did is it suddenly helped me to understand how my father had fathered me. And I'd always, I love my dad. I've always enjoyed my dad, but, we all know our parents' strengths and their weaknesses, the things that we think they have done and they haven't done and everything like that. But as we get older, if we have the grace to look past their mistakes, just as we have the grace to look past our own mistakes, then we can learn actually who was this person and how did they invest into my life in a way that I didn't realize at the time. So that understanding of intergenerational relationships was really important for me and has had quite a part to play in the book.
So just take me back a little bit to your former years before 21.
Yes.
Is there any instance within that time that you feel can really connect to this person that you are today?
Whew.
Because it sounds to me like you had a bit of an awakening in South Africa.
Yeah.
This is what I would call it.
Yes, absolutely. The thing for me is that as a Christian, my faith has grown as I've grown. I'm privileged to have come from a Christian family. So from a young age, I had an awareness of God and
Okay.
the importance of faith in my life.
Did your parents go to
Yeah, my
church?
parents were Christians. But it was as I grew older that it moved from being a religion where I just went to church, or I was told I had to pray, or I had to read my Bible, or something like that. It became real to me. I had genuine encounters for myself in my relationship with God that took it from a traditional doing something because it was the right thing to do to a recognition that this is actually helping me to understand who I am and who everybody else is and how I can relate to other people. And you're absolutely right, Tamika, because that was so significant that now the way that I do what I do is based on an understanding of who I am.
Awesome.
So what I do, one of the things I is lovely to share is that what I do flows out of who I am.
I like that. So I've got this book here.
Yes.
And what is really unique about the book is that I'm a part of this book.
You are.
So the story of my name is actually in this book. And I would highly recommend anybody that's interested in exploring identity and anything to do with who you are, like the real essence of who you are, to read this book. So I need to know how we got from you going on this mission in South Africa, getting to have a deeper understanding of yourself and your mission, I guess.
Yes.
In terms of helping people and how we ended up with this book, which I was a part of. And it talks about my name and how I came about. What's the word? It's right in here. And I like how you've put it nicely in the book, how I have chose to change to my name. So the journey of my name, for those that already follow me and know about my brand, I've got a Tayamika brand, which is spelled with the K-A. And then I've got my name, which is Tayamika, which is also on the podcast. That's my name with the C-A. So the whole story and the journey of how I got to changing my name is actually in this book. So I would highly recommend you read this book. But yes, take me on the journey.
Wow. So it actually started the first time I went to Africa in 1996. I was 18 years old. And I suddenly, for the first time, I met people who were saying to me, this is my name. My name is Patience or Goodness. And I was like,
I love those African names.
How can you be called Goodness? Can you imagine growing up being called Goodness? Goodness, stop being naughty. That contradiction is so interesting.
If you actually went to Zimbabwe and I think you could actually write a book about names in Zimbabwe. We've got more, like there's the English names, but we've also got the Shona names. And the Shona names are more on the negative side. Well, not more, but some of our Shona names with meanings are not always positive.
That's very interesting.
So there's also names that mean, people tend to express how they felt during their journey of having that child in the name and not necessarily in a positive way.
You're right.
So that's another one to explore, names in Zimbabwe.
You're right.
Shona names in Zimbabwe.
Well, I actually, I've only just given Tamika her copy, so she hasn't actually had a chance to read it yet.
I did read my manuscript.
You read your part, and that's in
before it was
chapter
published.
7. Yes, that's right, chapter 7. In chapter 6, I actually interviewed somebody from Zimbabwe, and they told me about someone who was called Rejected. That was their African name, and how that name had been a burden that young person had to carry. That when the mother told the partner that she was pregnant, the partner rejected her, and she called the child Rejected. And so in in that chapter, I mean, I interviewed in the chapter about international naming practices, I interviewed someone from China, Japan, Iceland, Zimbabwe, Iraq, Scotland, all sorts of different countries to explore different naming practices and why.
Did you find anything that was common among the practices?
No.
Really?
No. Absolutely, just so wildly different. It's extraordinary. So you're absolutely right. The way that different cultures explore naming is extraordinary. And the book. So my first experience, as I said, the first thing I did, my experience was either people saying, "This is my name," and it means, for example, patience, or it was, "This is my name and it means this." Now, I'd never experienced anyone saying to me, "This is my name and it means this," in the Western world.
Yes.
And so suddenly I was struck by an intentionality behind naming that I just hadn't been aware of in the Western world at all.
So what I'm hearing is, in the Western world, generally, like, you just get given a name because your parents like it.
Wow.
Is that how it is? Or?
It's interesting because in what I experienced was that in Africa, people walked with an understanding of what their name meant. Whereas in the Western world, I think a lot of us have never had that conversation with our neighbor to say, "Why did you give me this name? Why did you call me this?" So the difference, it's not so much that there isn't as much thought behind it. Mm-hmm. It's just that thought isn't shared with the person who's named.
Did you ever ask your parents why they named you William?
What a great question. See, this is why she does this. Okay. Yeah. So my name's William Henry Thompson. Now, I knew that my middle name, Henry, was the name of my grandfather, my dad's dad. But I never knew why I was called William. I'd never had that conversation. So in the process of, it took me 7 years to write the book, simply because of the amount of research I did, the interviews. I've interviewed people from NASA, people that have named bugs in New Zealand. Anyway, during the process of writing the book, I actually said to my mum, "So Mum, why William?" Now, what's extraordinary was that her stepfather was called Bill, but he died when she was a teenager, and I'd been named after him. Now, I knew that his name was Bill, but the two had never gone together, that I was named William after this chap Bill, because I'd never met him. He died when my mum was obviously very young. And she said that they named me William because he had loved her as if she was his own daughter.
Oh, so what's the link?
So she wanted to honor him and his fathering in giving me the name William. So what that tells me is that I was named by my parents to remember someone who loved even somebody that wasn't their own, which is beautiful for me. The second thing is, it tells me about my relationship with my mum and dad, that my dad didn't say, "No, I want it to be Henry William because my dad's name should be first." He recognized how significant Bill had been to my mum, and so I was William Henry Thompson. Oh. So what happens is your name, and this is one of the things. So my book's called "Why Does Your Name Matter?" And what I do in the book is, the book's really about reconciliation. It's the subtitle is Naming, Identity, and an Invitation. So a name is an invitation. And the first invitation is, it's an invitation for you to have a conversation with your neighbor. Why did you call me this? What was on your heart when you gave me this name?
So the namer is basically whoever gave you the name, your parents or...
Right. Very, very good. Now, the reason I say namer rather than parents is because in some cultures, it's not your parent that gives you the name. Oh. It can be an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent, a significant other. So the namer isn't necessarily a parent.
During your research, did you come across any cultures that spoke about a baby naming ceremony and the significance of that?
Wow, I mean, China has fascinating culture. The 100 days naming ceremony, where a child to start off with, and what was so fascinating was I was talking to cultures that are thousands of years old, Chinese, Japanese, African, Middle Eastern, so the Iraqi, Persian culture, Icelandic. These are cultures that have been going on for thousands of years, and each time the person I was interviewing said to me, "This is what our parents did and what our grandparents did, but it's happening less and less."
Okay.
So cultures are shifting away from these cultural naming practices, and it's becoming less about the culture and more about general society.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so back to China.
In the 100 days.
In the 100 days,
yeah.
they named, they gave a child when they're born, they give the child a name that seems very like tree or grass or bark or
and who
or
chooses
dog.
that one?
Well, it's the parents.
Okay.
Because they don't want to give the child too strong a name, because they're worried that if they give the child a strong name, it will attract the attention of the gods, who might in jealousy kill the child.
Wow. That's interesting.
It was fascinating.
Yes,
yeah.
Fascinating is the right word. So when the parents choose this name, it has to be as meaningless as possible in terms of names are concerned.
Yes.
Wow. And then what happens?
And then on the 100-day ceremony, they then give the child their full name.
And do the parents choose it, or it could be anyone within?
Yes, there's all sorts of parts to it, but it's got lots and lots of layers. But again, what it helped me to do is it helped me to really say, what is it? I mean, I've got 3 children, and naming those 3 children was very intentional. And the question isn't, was your name intentional? The question is, what was the intention behind your name? Because I've literally spoken to thousands of people, and there is no one that I've spoken to that I wasn't able to open a window and say, tell me more about this. So, for example, there was a girl I interviewed called Melanie, and she said, "Oh, I don't like my name. Melanie is like melanin. So melanin is in your skin is what makes you dark.
Yeah.
So melanin is to do with black. So Melanie means black." And she said, "I don't like my name." I said, "Okay."
Was she black or?
No, she wasn't black.
Okay. I didn't even. It makes sense, isn't it? That melanin means melanin. Yeah. I've never put 1 and 2 together.
No,
but
that's it.
Makes so much sense.
She didn't like it because she wasn't black, and she just felt, she didn't feel like she wasn't happy because she'd asked her parents, why did you give me this name? And she said, "Oh, well, it wasn't a particularly great story, William. It was just because my sister had a girl at school who was called Melanie. She really liked the name. And she said to my parents, can we call my baby daughter Melanie?" And I said, "Melanie, that's an incredible story." Because what you're telling me is that your parents loved your sister so much that they wanted to include her in the naming of you. Isn't that incredible? That shows that they're willing to engage with you as children, that they want to honor their children, that they want to foster that relationship between the sisters. I said, "That's beautiful. That tells me so much about your parents." And she was like, "I'd never seen it like that before." Some people, you know, they'll have a name for a child. It's like, this child is going to be Bruce. The child is born. It's like, that's clearly Robert. It's not Bruce. And You have these experiences. Some people have dreams. Some people it's...
Like me?
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. I would encourage everyone to read this book because it does talk about my name change journey, because mine was actually a dream I had.
Yeah.
And then I went through like 7 days. It was revealed over the years. So once I got an understanding of the dream,
Yes.
I actually did a fast for 7 days, fasting
Amazing.
and prayer for 7 days about the name before I changed it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you recognized the importance and the significance of your name. It was revealed to you, wasn't it?
It was, but in stages. It wasn't, the dream came to me and I wrote it down.
Yes.
And this dream, I never forgot that dream.
Yeah.
So the actual journey of me having the dream to me getting a full understanding and revelation of the meaning took about 5 years.
Amazing.
Yeah. So it was revealed, and then I went on that journey of understanding until I accepted it. Yeah.
It's so interesting you saying accept it. So many of us wrestle with our name.
Mm-hmm.
And the number of people I've spoken to who've said, I didn't like my name when I was younger, but now I like my name. You wouldn't believe how many people grow into their name. It's extraordinary.
I've got a question
Please.
for you. So if, say, I was still uncomfortable with my name.
Yes.
Because we've just spoke about acceptance.
Yes.
And that was quite key to it. You need to kind of accept it whichever way, whether you choose to keep that name or you change it.
Yes.
What if I'm still uncomfortable with it and I haven't accepted it?
Yeah.
Should you be changing it or just live with that, with
Wow.
that uncomfortable feeling?
So there's a whole chapter in the book about people changing their name.
Mm-hmm.
Why people change it. You can change your name from something or you can change your name to something. So in the book about the changing of the name, it might be that your name connects you to somebody that you have fallen out of relationship with. So some people change their name from their name to something else because they're wanting to leave something that name connects to that is painful, which is incredibly, incredibly deep. Some people change their name to something because they find themselves changing to something.
Which was the same.
Which
in my
was
case.
you, yes. Yeah. One of the individuals I interviewed, when I interviewed them, was non-binary, and so I interviewed them, and they were talking about their journey, and by the time I published the book, they'd made a transition into female, and so it was a she, and she had the whole journey from her dead name, and that journey through her transition, through that non-binary phase into becoming a female. And it was fascinating to talk to her and to hear the pain that was associated with her experience and her journey was extraordinary. Coming back to your original question, there's no specific answer. Yes, you should change your name. No, you shouldn't change your name. Your name is incredibly significant, and it has levels and levels of meaning to it. What it means to you, what it means to those who gave you that name, what it means to those who still call you that name. But that's why
does your name matter? Is my next question.
Why does your name matter? It's the question of the book. It's because what it does is it connects you to others. So your name connects you to your namer, but it also connects you to all of us.
In my instance,
yes,
it was a guide, or
yes,
it was more like spiritual.
Yes.
So that means that it connects me to a higher power.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the book is redemptive.
Meaning?
Which means it's something that people can read to find hope and reconciliation.
Mm-hmm.
So the book goes from a journey to understanding why names matter,
Yeah.
to what was in the heart of your namer.
Mm-hmm.
But then beyond that, beyond the importance of your name is the importance of who you are. And the book points towards what was in the heart of the maker. And that is because you as an individual are not your name.
Mm-hmm.
Even your name is a box which can feel like a trapping. People can feel trapped by their name. People can feel misunderstood by their name.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the key themes of the book is reconciliation.
Mm-hmm.
It's being reconciled to the name, so we can become reconciled to our name. But our name can help us to be reconciled to our namer. But some people do find that their name is a cage, a trap, which they can't escape from.
How do you escape it?
Well, you've got two options. You either do escape that name, which can lead to a name change, or you can become reconciled to that name
Through acceptance.
through accepting the name. And the way to accept a name is to accept who you are.
I like what you say, that you are not your name.
Yes.
So for those with the, like, especially within my Zimbabwean community,
Yes.
for those with the name that's got like a negative
Yes.
connotation, how does the reconciliation happen, and what does that look like?
Wow. Sayamika, that's an extraordinary question. What I talk about in the book is that you are created, that you are known by a God who loves you, and the Bible says that he knows your name.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what that means is that there's something about who you are that is known by God and loved by God that is beyond your name. One of my favorite interviews in the book is actually in chapter 9, which is the key chapter. It's the final chapter. I interviewed a swordsmith, and this swordsmith said that as he made the sword, a name would come to him for the sword. And it might be to do with the metal. It might be to do with the noise when he was hammering the metal. It might be to do with a particular way that the metal moves, or the way the light shines on it. But a name would come to him in the process of making the sword. But when he gave that sword to the person who bought the sword, he never told them the name. He gave them the honor of naming the sword because it was their
That's
item.
amazing.
Isn't that beautiful?
I have so many questions for you, and I'd love you to come back.
Yes.
I want to give my listeners an opportunity to actually read the book,
Right.
so that when you come back, my questions would be in context. So we're going to move on now.
Okay.
But I really, really want us to have a part 2 of this conversation.
Okay.
Because I have so many other questions, especially relating to what you said about the maker. And because even in the Bible, there is instances of people changing names and
Yes,
stuff. So
absolutely.
I'd love to go deeper into that.
Yes.
But I'm going to swiftly move on.
Yes.
Is there anything in particular that you would say is an achievement for you?
My biggest achievement is really you can't call your children an achievement, but an achievement is where you get a sense of a degree of satisfaction in what you've done. Now, it doesn't matter what you've achieved. You can achieve the most extraordinary. You can win an Olympic gold medal, but there will still be aspects in that you're not entirely happy about. You know, you can build a skyscraper, and that can be an extraordinary achievement, but there will still be parts that you know that you did badly. that went wrong, that didn't go as you wanted them to go. So if we talk about something that you take great joy and celebrate, my greatest achievement are my children. And I'm not saying that I didn't make mistakes. I've made some awful mistakes with my children.
What I like is the fact that I think like success, achievements, it's all personal, isn't it? What people consider an achievement for themselves. So it's really good to know how different people view different things as achievements. And looking ahead, so what are you doing now, and are you carrying on the path of helping people?
Yes. So what I do, as I said, flows out of who I am.
Yeah.
People ask me to train them in relational engagement, communication skills.
Is that personal or corporate?
Both.
Okay.
So I go into companies and I help companies to build a culture of trust in their top teams. And I also do executive coaching where I work with people one-to-one. And the reason I do that is because of the way I see people. So when I engage with people, I'm seeing them beyond this, whatever's on the outside. And I fundamentally believe that there's something extraordinarily valuable in who they are that I love to see thrive.
Amazing. I like that. So I like to end with some light-hearted, fun fashion questions. So I've got a question for you. What's an unusual item that you always have on you?
Well, it's not so unusual, but I do love cufflinks.
Oh, okay.
There's something incredibly stylish and sophisticated, I think, about cufflinks. I've always loved James Bond.
Oh, lovely.
And the cufflink pull is just such a classic English gentlemanly thing to do. So there's something about cufflinks that I absolutely love. So I keep a spare pair of cufflinks in a dinner jacket. I always have a couple of spare pairs in my wash bag whenever I go anywhere internationally.
Oh, so that sounds like you've got an emotional attachment too.
Cufflinks.
Oh, good. And have you got what's your definition of fashion?
For me, the important thing about fashion is dressing appropriately for an occasion.
Interesting.
So I just think that's really important. So I don't like it when people go to events where they need to be dressed up in a t-shirt or looking, it being edgy because they've dressed down. I just find that disrespectful. And it's important that for me, that my children understand that you dress for the occasion, and you can dial up and dial down. That's absolutely fine.
So what if you have been invited to an occasion and there's a dress code and it says optional? What is the polite thing to do in your eyes?
Dress code optional. For me, if it's dress code optional, I'm always going to go smart casual. I love my jackets. I love waistcoats. Any opportunity.
No, well, I was kind of meaning like in the context of, let's say the dress code was wear something white.
Yes.
Would you, but it says optional in brackets. Yes. Would you turn up in white or just?
Oh, heck yeah.
Or just whatever you want,
no,
since it's optional.
No, it says, if it said dress code is this, but it's optional, I'd be obedient. I'd go with the dress code.
Okay. Have you got any anything you hate shopping for?
I don't like shopping for socks. I always, all my socks are black, plain cotton socks. I think there's so much that's loud and extrovert and energetic about who I am. I feel like my socks need to be dialed down.
Oh, okay. So you wouldn't wear a pair of designer socks?
No.
Oh, you wouldn't? Okay.
They're always going to be, my socks are always dialed down. So you can have too much of a good thing.
Yeah. Is there anything you like shopping for?
I love shopping for nice shirts and suits.
And cufflinks?
cufflinks. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, last but not least.
Yes.
Have you got a fashion-related question for me?
Wow.
I didn't prepare myself, so here, ask away.
The question I'd love to ask you,
Yes.
Taomika, is when I first went to Africa, they gave me an African shirt, which was made of a kanga.
Yeah.
So in Tanzania, Kenya, they have something called a kanga, which is a piece of material the ladies turn into dresses and do the most I mean, I mean, the kind of things you do with material, so beautiful. And they made me a shirt, and I absolutely loved wearing this shirt because it made me feel accepted by them. It made me feel as though I was enjoying being part of their culture. And so when I see things on the news about cultural appropriation,
Yes.
it makes me feel sad because I feel like it depends on what's in the heart of the person that's wearing those things. What are your thoughts on cultural appropriation?
Do you know what? That is a very interesting, that's a whole episode on its own, cultural appropriation. When it comes to, say, like the African prints and African traditional clothing, what I'm hearing is you were given this as a gift.
Yes.
So the people that this culture belongs to were actually celebrating and appreciating you by giving you a piece of them. So
I love that.
In that context, I wouldn't look at that as cultural appropriation. However, there is instances where people blatantly just take from people's cultures. They don't honor or acknowledge the people or the origins and the history of those things and almost claim them as an original design or, okay, this is fashion. But hang on a minute, you're creating fashion out of stuff that belongs to a particular culture without honoring or even doing something for that community. So yeah, it's a fine line.
That's beautiful.
Between celebration and actual just misuse, disrespect of people's culture.
Wow. You're amazing.
So we've reached the conclusion of this episode of Explore Your Identity. I just want to extend a heartfelt appreciation to our listeners and viewers. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. But before I go, I'd like to give William an opportunity to tell the viewers and listeners how they can connect with you.
Sure. Well, my name's William Thompson. My business is called I Am About You. So you can actually use I Am About You to find my website, Instagram, LinkedIn, and the book is for sale on Amazon.
Amazing, amazing. Remember, you can find more episodes of more identity episodes on our YouTube channel. Please share this episode among your community. I know within my community, names are such a big thing. And this is a really interesting book that kind of gives you, if you have doubts about your name, if you're not sure, if you're expecting a baby and you want to explore, the name part of it, that's an identity. So do consider looking at this book. Until next time, keep exploring your identity. Explore your identity with Taomika.